Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I kind of like to relate it to an airplane taking off. You know, when an airplane takes off, it has to go full throttle. If it goes anything but full throttle, it's not getting off the ground. It won't do it. Now, does it stay at full throttle? No. As soon as it gets to altitude, it slows down and can maintain that. It's the same thing with this.
Eventually, everybody converts, right?
Look,
Everybody converts.
I'm not against it. I'm not against it at all. I'm always up for a challenge.
That's right. You got it. And guys, we are back here on the money, the mindset, and the mentoring challenge. Challenge. That's funny. You said challenge. Money, mindset, and mentoring podcast. And I'm here today with Tywin Kalandyk. And Tywin, dude, man, when I saw your images on your Instagram, you're jacked, my friend.
Yeah, man. I play around a little bit in the gym here and there. A little bit.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit.
A little bit.
What is the secret sauce? What is the secret sauce?
Man, everybody wants to know the secret sauce. There is no secret sauce, first of all. But if I was going to say there was any secret, consistency and discipline. Something I think people don't like to hear. That's the honest truth. It's consistency and discipline. That's what it all comes down to.
You know, everybody's always trying to look for the hall pass to get the front of the line. Yeah. And there's certain things in life that come without that. And it comes with that consistency and it comes with that discipline. Mm-hmm. Now, with you, with your starting point of where you were in your family earlier on, there was a lot of struggles that happened. You didn't come from, a bunch of gym rats in the family where people were just out there and just crushing health and crushing a quality lifestyle. And to go from that to where you are today, like that's a huge pivot. And there's got to be certain moments in life that make people do that. So let's talk a little bit about the starting point so everybody knows. And then what was that moment? Because that's always the sweet sauce is because everybody's looking to see, how did you change? Why did you change? What was the number one reason that made you make that change?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to kind of give a little backstory. So where I came from. So I was born, my mom had a drug and alcohol problem. So I was born a drug and alcohol addicted baby, came in, I was born premature, spent the first year of life in the hospital. Doctors pretty much said either two things would happen. Either I wouldn't live past one, or if I did, I would have a lot of medical issues. So kind of coming in, I was always that underdog. So I just took into very early on sports. And I found out in sports that if you were good at sports, you would get attention from people. And I was constantly seeking attention because I needed that validation because I felt like I wasn't good enough. I didn't know that at the time. I know that now. And so took to sports, and I learned very early on, if you just outwork everybody, you can be better than them. Doesn't matter how you were born or anything like that. And so that's what I did at a very young age. I took to sports, ended up getting a full ride scholarship in that. And again, I don't come from a family that's athletic. Everybody in my family is overweight. I lost my dad at age 20, lost my mom at age 30 due to obesity issues. So I definitely don't come from that. But I always told myself, I remember specifically being a young kid and, my dad was my superhero. And I always wanted him to play with me, come out, whether it was shoot hoops or whatever. And he was always too tired. He never had the energy. And at the time, I took that as he didn't love me. But I know now as I became an adult, it was he couldn't. He was overweight. He never had the energy. He was working himself to death. I made myself a promise that I would never do that.
It's one of those huge struggles. I have 3 kids myself. And to imagine that my choices that I might have made in life are going to stop me from that ability to be able to pick up my kids or go out and run in the backyard. Those are real impacts when you make life choices. When you pick up that bag of chips, when you decide not to go to the gym, decide to drink that 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, whatever the choices are. Those choices have consequences. 100%. And the choices to get up at 4:00 in the morning or 4:30, because that's the only time you can fit in to go to the gym and go get that hour workout, punch it. That's also a choice. And that also has outcomes. And you did a pivot where in looking at, was that the reconciliation moment when you said, when my dad was telling me that I can't do these things and realizing that, or was there something else that sort of really brought on to say, enough is enough, I'm going to change my direction?
I think in terms of fitness wise, it wasn't like this one exact moment. I would say in terms of fitness wise, I think what steered me more in that direction is two things. What steered me more in that direction, the first thing I would say, the attention that I got. And again, I'm a foster kid. I'm seeking attention more than anything from anybody that I could get it to. And I think anybody that's ever done sports or played sports, especially if you completed at a high level and you were good, you got a lot of attention. And you got a lot of things handed to you. You got a lot of hall passes. You just get handed a lot as an athlete in the United States. You just do. So I really took to that. That was one thing. But then again, I've seen the effects that it had on my parents. I've seen the effects that obesity had on my brothers and my sisters. And it wreaked havoc. I'm not talking about, because sometimes we look at a very superficial level of like how we look. It's not really that's not why I do it, at least. That's not really why I even care about it. It's the underlying things that go with it. Like, no one in my family has any discipline, not just in fitness, in any other aspect of their life. They can't stay consistent at things. So like I seen at a very early age the benefits and the downfalls of someone who took care of themselves and someone who didn't take care of themselves. It's much more than how you physically look on the outside. And sometimes I think for people that have never really been in shape, they've never had those benefits, so they don't see it. You know, whether it's, depression that a lot of people have, even confidence. Confidence is a huge thing that people lack, that they're just not happy with the way they look. Now, confidence goes into how much money you make, like if you run a business, how well you run your business, your communication skills. These are all things that spill into other areas of your life. So the physical effect, that's kind of like a byproduct of it. There's other things that are way, way more impactful on someone's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to fitness. Most people look at fitness as what you do in the gym. And I think one of the things that you really focus on is it's not what you do in the gym. That's the outcome. What you do in your mind is what drives what you do in the gym. And you have to win there first. And so the idea that you're saying that that there's all these things, benefits that you get, and those benefits outweigh the cost of the time in the gym. And then eventually you start loving that grind in the gym. At the beginning, you're probably, I just injured my knee I had knee surgery. And so I had to take a little bit of time off in the gym from jitsu, and coming back, I'm not at the same level that I was before I left. And so it's a little bit more of a grind. I'm not beating the people I normally beat. I'm not doing the things that I normally do. Everything hurts a lot more than it did. And as you get later in life, I'm 48 right now, so it takes a little bit more to recover. And so, but I also love the grind. Like, I love the grind. There's nothing better than just you're absolutely 100% past that limit of comfort and you're still going. And I think, I don't know what causes that transition, like that flip and that switch. And that's the thing that I'm really curious around.
Yeah, you said a lot of great things there, and you brought up so many good points. And I think what people need to understand, and my mentor, Myron Goldman, always says this, disruption follows intention every single time. So whenever you make that decision, you're going to do something, people say, okay, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to lose the weight. Whatever you're going to do. Disruption immediately follows that. You're going to feel worse before you ever feel better. Like that first day you go to the gym, and you're not used to it, you're going to feel horrible. And guess what happens on day number 2? You're going to feel even worse. And then on day number 3, you're really going to feel bad. Same thing if you're used to eating terrible foods. You go to fast food all the time. You drink a lot of soda. You drink alcohol. You drink all that. You start eating healthy, you're going to feel terrible. You're going to feel terrible at first. Why? Disruption always follows intention. That's just the way it goes. Same thing if you decide, and again, it's not just fitness. These are principles. These are hold true in all aspects of life. That's why I love fitness so much, because it's a controlled environment. And it teaches you actual life lessons, So yeah, you're going to feel bad way before you feel good. But the payoff in the end, like you said, you get this sense of you start to enjoy it. And I think part of the reason we enjoy it is because you're becoming a better version of yourself. And as humans, I truly believe we feel our best when we're growing. We feel our best when we're conquering things, especially when we're conquering ourselves, especially as men. We feel great. You know when we feel bad? When we're not doing anything productive, when we're not going after anything, when we don't have any goals. That is like a recipe for depression. That's a recipe for just being an angry person. And again, all of that stuff spills into your relationships, whether it's with others, with your spouse, with your kids. So it's just like, again, it's this compound effect that unfortunately I don't think a lot of people realize, but once they do and they get a grasp of that, they tend to love it. They really do.
The social construct that we live in kind of teaches us relax, take it easy, don't overwork, be happy, all the things that I think are very against what is actually required to create sustained fulfillment.
I agree.
Most people, to get sustained fulfillment, they have to commit to doing hard things, because the result of doing hard things is that feeling of accomplishment. I mean, getting off the couch, going over, grabbing a bag of Cheetos and going and sit back down and flipping on some, day drama is not going to give you a sense of fulfillment. It might make you feel at ease, give you a momentary bit of bliss, of happiness, but that's like a little bit of flash of kerosene.
100%.
Where you look at fulfillment comes out of doing hard things.
100%.
And then you actually get it. Not only do you get addicted to the outcome, I think you get addicted to the process of doing hard things.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And I kind of like to relate it to an airplane taking off. When an airplane takes off, it has to go full throttle. If it goes anything but full throttle, it's not getting off the ground. It won't do it. Now, does it stay at full throttle? No. As soon as it gets to altitude, it slows down and can maintain that. It's the same thing with this. Same thing works with a rocket ship, right? It burns all this energy, it takes all of this to get it off the ground, to break gravity. But once it does, it's so much easier. And again, it's the same thing with your fitness journey. It's the same thing with business. It's the same thing with relationships. And unfortunately, you're right. We live in a society that coddles us. We live in a society that says, it's okay. Everybody gets a trophy. That's not the way the world works. That's not the way life works. So you're getting set up for failure. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there. They want you to be dumb, sick, and overweight. Because if that's the case, there's people that can make a lot of money off of you, number one, and you're very easily controlled.
Absolutely. When it comes to people who have a victim mentality are a perfect consumer for large corporate organizations
100%.
Because they look to external solutions to solve their internal problems.
100%.
Whereas if they could solve it internally, they don't need that medication. They don't need that, government program. They don't need that, whatever assistance, because they look internally and they solve it. Whereas if they solve it themselves, they now have empowered themselves. They are no longer a victim, and they have true control over themselves. There was a quote that I was looking at, and it's funny enough that we're having this conversation today. There's a quote that I was looking at earlier on today, and let me just pull it up here because I thought it was really interesting. And it talks about this. It says, once you start to approach every situation as someone who is acting, not being acted upon, you will start to have more control over your life. That's a quote from Grant Cardone. And I love that quote.
That's nice. I'm taking notes on that. So it's funny, you're talking about the victim mindset. And anytime I get on this conversation, I always like saying this because I can say it because I'm Black and other people can't say it. They probably want to say it, but they can't. So I always take this opportunity to say this, because a victim mindset is a recipe for disaster, because you're not in control. You're giving up all the control you have. Like you said, you're looking outwardly, right, to get your results instead of inwardly where you really need to look. And, a lot of times I'll run into Black people, African-American people, whatever you want to call us, yourselves, whatever, listeners, right? And unfortunately, a lot of us have this victim mindset, and it makes me so angry, right? They want to blame it on the white person, right? Which is so not true. It couldn't be farthest from the truth. We've had a Black president. Come on. We have a potentially Black, or whatever she is, Black, white, Indian, whatever she is, running for president now. Like, It's just not reality. So what happens is we've put up these perceived realities, these perceived walls. They're not even real. And here, it's funny because I'm actually reading this book, which everybody I think should read this book. It's a great book, especially if you're African American. You really need to read this book. It's called it's about I think it's called Willie Lynch Letters. So anyways, just to give you a quick synopsis of the book, really quick recap. Now, this book was written during slavery, and it was a guy that came over and he basically he's like, you're having trouble controlling your slaves. I'm going to show you exactly how to control your slaves. And if you do this correctly, this will stick for the next 300 years, at least. The same thing that it talks about in this book is the same thing that Black people do to themselves to this day. In the book, it says right there, it's like, we won't need the chains. You don't need anything that they'll do it to themselves. In a long story short, it's basically, it's manipulating your mindset. Exactly what we're talking. It's having that victim mindset. And what's so crazy about this is what they put in place way back then is still holds true today. And it's self-created. So it's wild. Victim mindset is, you'll get in so much trouble. If you can just break that, if that's the only thing you get from this whole conversation is learn to take full responsibility for everything in your life, you can transform everything that quick.
Absolutely. The number one problem that I see in everybody's actions, I was talking with a lady the other day about, she's a real estate agent, about door knocking. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, I said, did you go out and knock on the 50 doors you're supposed to? Well, I'm waiting for my marketing material. Like, okay, so the marketing material is controlling you and stopping you from your outcome. Well, no. Did you go door knocking? No. Why? Because I didn't get my marketing material. No, it's because you chose that was more important than actually going out knocking on doors. This other fellow actually went and knocked on doors without marketing material and they got the results that he was looking for. So because you externalize the control to somebody else, which is the printer, rather than you taking ownership of your goals and ownerships of your activities, you now have an external boss. And that goes down to when you're talking about slavery, you talk about the elephant in the rope. Have you heard the elephant in the rope story?
Yes. Right? Same thing.
Elephant, gets chained up, then they take it with a chain and they eventually put a rope. The elephant won't move because the rope is there and he's tied to a little peg that he could rip out in a heartbeat, but because he's been conditioned that rope has all the power, he gives the power to the rope.
Same thing. Same exact thing. And the lady you're talking about that didn't go knock on doors because she didn't have the marketing material. When she gets the marketing material, she's just going to find a different excuse. It's going to be too hot outside.
Yeah.
It'll be too late.
The thing is she's going through a rapid change. Mm-hmm. And I know her why. She's now found her why. And good. I believe she's going to crush it.
Good.
I believe she's going to crush it because her why, once people actually connect with their why, there's so many times I think they start developing their why, but they really don't believe it. They really don't commit to it. And so for her why has so much purpose and so much conviction that she has to do it. When I first got into real estate in 2014, I had shut down a construction business under duress. I was, $750,000-ish in a hole. With my kids were 3, my second kid was just born. My wife was on mat leave. I had no option but to succeed when I got into real estate. Mm. And I sold 40 odd houses in the first year of real estate. Most people don't do that in the lifetime of real estate, let alone in their first year.
Yes.
And so, but because I had a mission, I had to solve things.
See, that's one of the benefits of being put under pressure. Look, when things are going good, that's actually a very dangerous place to be, being comfortable. It's very, 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 very dangerous. So I always tell people when you get in that sense of uncomfort, which my belief is you should always put yourself in a place of being uncomfortable, whether it's physically, however you want to do that, because there's different ways you can do it, but you need to do that because it keeps the fire going. It keeps that drive going. But when you get comfortable, for a lot of people, that's a very, very dangerous. For everybody, it's a dangerous place to be, especially if you don't maneuver that,
Yeah. Comfort is the enemy.
Yes.
Comfort is the enemy. I 100% agree. Comfort is the enemy physically. There's no way you could get jacked biceps like you have by being comfortable. Muscles don't get built by comfort. They get torn. They get ripped to pieces. And then in that being ripped to pieces, they then build bigger and stronger. So that had to come out of discomfort.
And see, that's why I love the gym so much, because in the gym, it's a controlled environment where you can put yourself in very uncomfortable positions, very uncomfortable situations, and you can learn to push through those. You can, like, you're literally because it's a muscle. That's a muscle you have to work. You know, your brain, like, that's an actual muscle. You have to work this thing. No one comes out the womb and just like, okay, let me go do very uncomfortable things. Matter of fact, that's exactly the opposite of how we're hardwired. We're hardwired to run away from, we're to seek comfort.
Yeah.
So to go in, like, knowingly, and I give credit so anybody that goes to the gym, kudos to you, because that alone is better than most people do. But it's like, once you start going, sometimes we lower the bar. It's like, oh, well, I go to the gym. That's awesome. I'm not going to discredit that. It's a good start. But if you've been going to the gym for 6 months and we're not making any moves, we're not going anywhere, well, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So I'm a big fan of holding your friends, your family, and community to a very high standard, and being truthful. Because we live in a society where, unfortunately, we lie a lot. We lie to ourselves and we lie to other people. No, like, I want my friends to hold me accountable. If I'm not doing what I need to do, I don't want you to say, like, oh, it's okay, you've had a hard week, everybody deserves a little rest, blah, blah. No, if I'm not living up to my potential, tell me. And then I get to make an educated decision for myself. Okay, well, do I want to just be lazy, or do I want to live up to my potential? It's my choice.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So, when it comes to the idea of holding yourself accountable to your goals, you're 100% right that a lot of people, what they'll do is they're going to set a big lofty goal, and in their mind, they know they're never going to hit it. And then the first time they run into adversity, they lower their standards. And I always tell people the standards aren't what you set, it's what you accept. And if you accept that you're not going to go to the gym today, you're going to go 3 times a week, that's fine. That's your new standard. You said you were going to go to, 6 times a week, but you went 3. Your standard is what you do. It's what you set. And what you accept is what's more important. Your 100%. Standards are what you accept, not what you set.
100%. Because you'll never live a life below your own standards. No. Like you said, whatever you set, that's what you're going to do.
Yep.
You just are.
Yeah. Yeah. But what you actually do is actually what you set.
100%.
Yeah. Which is even further. Because you're connecting I think that the concept is like what you think is what you say is what you do becomes your legacy. It's not what you think you're going to do is your legacy. It's actually what you do is your legacy.
See, that's where I believe you have to connect the two, and you have to become a man of your word. You have to get to the point where whatever you say, you're going to do. Like, when it comes, this is why you need to be. And again, this is why you can't lie to yourself. You have to, because you get used to lying to yourself. So if you're the kind of person that you're used to, you say one thing but do something different. Well, that becomes who you are as a person.
Yep.
But if you just become the kind of person where if it comes out of my mouth, I'm going to do it.
Yep. Absolutely.
Alignment. Yeah.
Well, that's how it becomes your legacy, because that's what you did.
100%. 100%.
And a lot of times I think it goes to what you have internally, sort of how you've been brought up, how you've reacted to the world. But then it's also what you're constantly fed. And if you're sitting there watching CNN or watching Fox News or watching some sort of, any of those big channels that are just feeding us, a bunch of garbage, in my opinion, it's not going to give you the lifestyle that you're looking for. Input always equals output.
Yeah. Your input equals your output. 100%. If you don't like your output, change your input. It's very, very simple concept. You don't like the output, change the input. You don't even have to you don't even have to worry about the output. Just worry about the activity. Worry about the input. Like, set your goal. You can set your goal. That's fine. Nothing wrong with setting a goal. But once you set it, then all you got to do is reverse engineer it.
Yep.
Just reverse engineer it. And like, sometimes when I work with people, they'll be like, well, they'll say, my brain doesn't work like that. I don't know how to reverse engineer it. Okay, cool. No problem. We'll do it a different way with that. You'll be very good at it. Okay. So your goal is to lose weight. Yes. Okay, perfect. If you wanted to gain as much weight as you possibly could, as fast as you could, how would you do that? well, I would eat a lot of fast food. I wouldn't go to the gym. But okay, now just reverse it. Do the opposite. Because we're very good at coming up with the negative. Like we're very, very good at finding the negative. But sometimes finding the positive in things we're bad at. So what a lot of times I'll do is I'll just tell them to revert it, right? So like if your goal is to make whatever, say $100,000 a year. Okay, what's the surefire way not to make $100,000 a year? Oh, and people be like, oh, do this, do that, do this, do that, do that. Okay, just do the opposite.
Yeah, most people know what they can't, what they're not supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And to pivot that to get them to focus on saying, okay, great, we've identified the stops. The opposite is the starts.
Yes. Yeah.
And then the thing that's in the middle is the continues.
Yeah. A light switch will go off and people like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's actually a really good model to walk through. I like that. Yeah, because a lot of people don't take instruction of what they're supposed to do, but they'll certainly take instruction of what they're not supposed to do.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for that. I didn't come up with that. That's actually from Charlie. That's from Charlie Munger.
I like it. You know, one of the things that I love about when you look at what people learn from an adult learning principle, and it kind of feeds into a little bit of what we're talking about, is the 4 quadrants of learning, where you look at the first quadrant being the unconscious ignorance. In other words, the things I don't know that I don't know. And that's a very dangerous quadrant because you actually don't know something that you don't know. The next quadrant is the quadrant of conscious ignorance, which means you don't know that thing, but you're still going to, go in the course that you're kind of going, and you're operating at knowledge of peril. And usually that quickly moves into conscious knowledge, which is now I'm going to actively be doing something, but as I'm doing it, it takes a lot of mental fortitude to do the things that I'm doing. And then the last phase is moving into unconscious unconscious knowledge, which is saying that I now can operate on autopilot. Yep. Now, the last phase is just as dangerous as the first phase. It's comfortable because it's just like driving down the highway. In a straight highway, you're on autopilot. You've got the Tesla. It's driving itself. Everything's great. And then all of a sudden, the moose runs out in front and you're in a car accident.
Yep.
Because you're running in unconscious knowledge. And so that beginning phase and that ending phase are 2 very dangerous phases to operate in.
I think what people have to, and that's what you just said. It's something great for people to really understand in what stage of the learning process you're in. So I hope the listeners, really kind of took that in, because it's super important to not only know what stage you're in, so you know how to get to the next one, but then also know there's always another level in whatever you're doing, whether it's your relationship, whether it's your finances, whether it's fitness. There's always another level. So I always tell people, like, if you want your life to get better, just never get off the elevator. Just always stay on the elevator. And fortunately, what a lot of people do is they get off the elevator. Like, oh, I'm happy here. I'll get off. Well, when you get off, your life, it's not going to get any better. Things aren't going to change. It's probably going to decline because there's only 2 ways you can go. You can go up and you can go down. Staying stagnant is not one. Like, you're either growing or you're dying. That's 2 choices you have. Sometimes people think they're staying stagnant. You're really not. You're not. Right? Even if it's like, if you use the example of someone's at their job and they're not making any more money, they haven't got a raise. They're like, well, I'm making the same. Well, no, you're not, because with inflation and everything else, you're making less.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're making less, and the time that you're on the earth is less.
Yes.
And so that's the one thing you don't have control over is, we only have a certain amount of time on this world.
Yeah, but a lot of times that's not how we treat it. We have unlimited time. Like, we're just going to be here forever. And that is not the case.
No,
not the case at all.
Yeah. That's the one asset that we have the most limited thing around is time. And most people don't realize how important it is to focus on compressing time to be able to get the most done. And when it's the most done, it's the most important thing done, and focus on that. One of my biggest pet peeves is when somebody says, I don't have time. And I always call bullshit on that. I'm saying, can you change your words, please? And they're like, what do you mean? Change it. It's not a priority to me.
100%.
And then you're going to be telling the truth.
See, this is the biggest difference between what I've found. This is one of the biggest difference between wealthy people and poor people. Is they understand the most important commodity they have is time.
Yep.
And they're willing, They'll spend money to speed up the time. They'll do that in a heartbeat. And this is what stops a lot of people from getting ahead. This is probably one of the biggest hacks I think I learned since I turned 40 was the power of coaches and mentors. Like I really understood the power of coaches and mentors.
Yeah.
Like it's so powerful.
Absolutely. When you look at poor people, they'll spend time for money. Wealthy people will spend money for time. And when you think about your elevator analogy, that you're always on the elevator going up, that's actually an analogy around a coach and a mentor, because you could have chosen the staircase, but see, the staircase, you're going up alone. You're the one who's pressing your body up every single step. The elevator's been put there for you, and it's been put there for somebody else, by somebody else for you. And so in that situation, you're being elevated by somebody else. And both of those will take you to the top.
True. Very true. I think one of the things that I really realized with mentors, coaches, masterminds is that you can take someone who's struggling. I mean, they're really struggling. Let's use money, because a lot of people struggle with money. A lot of people have money issues. Mm-hmm. But money is just a tool. Like when you really understand it, money is just a tool. It's no different than a hammer, no different than anything else out there. Most people just don't know how to use that tool. Mm-hmm. So when you start getting around the right people that understand these concepts, that understand these principles, you can take someone who struggled with something, you struggle with it your whole life. It seems so hard. And you talk to the right person, it becomes easy. Yes, sir. It becomes instantly easy.
It's on the backs of giants. I mean, if you want to elevate and you want to walk alone on the ground by yourself, I mean, great, you own it. But if you get on the backs of giants, you're going to move in such a different way that you never thought possible.
Yeah, because a lot of times we have this perception that things have to be hard. It has to be hard to make money. But to make a lot of money, it has to be hard. To get in shape, it has to be hard. No, it doesn't. Because when you're that's your perception or that's your belief. If you think everything's going to be hard, guess what you're going to do? You're going to look for the hard way to do everything. So you can have the easy road right in front of you, and you won't even see it. You won't see it because you think it has to be hard. No, it doesn't. Mm-hmm. I just don't subscribe to that. I do not think God set the world up to be like that. I don't. It's just we as humans, we overcomplicate things and we think things have to be hard. So we look for the hardest ways to do things. I think part of it is because I think our education system has done that. When I'm working with people, the hardest people to work with, the more educated someone is. Now, when I say educated, I mean in a traditional sense. PhDs, masters, they're the hardest people to work with. They're the hardest people to work with.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is when the system, I mean, to be an accountant, you're working in a system that's really purposely been made extremely complicated. Mm-hmm. So then you need an accountant to do it. Mm-hmm. And so they're used to working in extremely complicated situations and that require a lot of diligence to get things done. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is definitely hard work. Just like, aeronautics, I want the hard work to be done up front before that plane takes off, so I know that it's going to land correctly. And I think there's certain times that hard work needs to show up, and usually that comes in the form of activity, mm-hmm. And it comes in the form of discipline. But the work itself necessarily isn't hard. Like picking up, a computer and banging on a couple keyboards. That's actually not hard work. Picking up the phone.
What you said. You said something really good. The hard work comes in the form of the action, right? What a lot of times people think is they think they're looking for, like, let's say the number of steps. So they think something has to be 28 steps when really you can do it in 3. Mm-hmm. Which, if you're around anybody that's really, really intelligent, anybody that runs a company at a very high level, they're always trying to take stuff out. How can we make it more simple? This is why I love Elon Musk. Mm-hmm. Elon Musk is great at doing this. He's just like, make it more simple, make it easy, get rid of things. And he challenges people to dumb it down, make it simple. Because the simpler something is, first of all, the less likely it is to break. And when it does break, you can figure out what's the problem. And it's like that for everything, even your fitness. People worry about so many things. They're like, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this, got to do that. That's why I always use the Pareto principle. Pareto principle basically says 20% of what you do is going to produce 80% of the results. 80% of what you do is going to only produce 20% of the results. So all you really have to do, if you just focus on the 20% that's going to give you the most bang for your buck, you don't even have to worry about the rest of this, right? So again, even in my coaching program, that's what I do. I just eliminate the fluff.
Yeah.
Just,
the Pareto principle is the number one reason why I bought my Tesla. Because the Tesla, sure, I got some tax advantage and all these other these perks with it. But the fact that I didn't have to go do oil changes, the fact that I didn't have to take it in for maintenance for, the spark plugs, the drive chain, and all this other stuff that goes along with a normal combustion engine. I literally just tires, windshield wipers. And I think that's pretty much it. That's all I had to do. Even when it came to stopping at gas stations, because I could travel within the tank time, I know that I don't have to stop at a gas station. I can just charge at home.
yeah.
And so the more that I can eliminate those little steps that exist in the process within my day, and that's why I say, kudos to you for having luxurious hair, but I can tell you, my hair is a lot more efficient than yours. When I wake up in the morning, it's go time. I don't have to do anything. I'm so happy that I have no hair. They say bald is beautiful. I say bald is efficient.
You know what? It's funny you say that about efficiency. So I read, it's maybe like 10 years ago. I can't remember I think it was Steve Jobs was the first person I read did it. A lot of people do it now, but Steve Jobs was the first one I knew. He would wear all black.
Mm-hmm.
And he would wear all black because he didn't have to think.
Yep.
He just put on his clothes and that's it. So probably about 10 years ago, I've been doing that. Predominantly 95% of my wardrobe is either all white shirt or an all black shirt.
Yeah, I do the exact same thing. The only time I wear a shirt that has any sort of branding on is when I go to a trade show. It's got my podcast brand on it so I can connect with people about talking about my podcast. That's intentional, based on a marketing strategy that has nothing to do with a selection of wardrobe.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the more that people can simplify on the things that they make complicated, the things that have the least amount of impact in their life, then they can focus on the real complicated things that exist in their world and actually start to solve hard things, because all the things that they thought were really hard are now gone. Choosing your shoes, who cares?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think most people, what you said is really good. I think most people need to do an audit on your life.
Yep.
You need to just sit down and audit your life and just get rid of the things that don't serve you. That's most people's problem right there. You have a bunch of stuff in your life that does not serve you. It's not leading you in the right direction. As a matter of fact, it's not only not leading you in the direction you want to go, it has you sidetracked. It's leading you in the complete opposite way. So if people would just sit down and say, okay, I'm going to do a complete inventory of my life, my relationships, my health, my finances, and don't even add anything. Just eliminate. Start taking stuff away that doesn't serve you, and that alone will enhance your life by tenfold.
Yeah, and I think if you start with the idea, speaking of relationships, if you start with the idea of date the activity, marry the outcome.
There you go.
Date the activity, marry the outcome. And then you'll be able to, because a lot of people, they commit to the activity, they don't commit to the outcome of the activity.
There you go. That's why people change. They'll change. They lower their standards. I have a real big problem when people lower their standards. Because most people, the problem is you need to raise your standards. Most people's standards are way too low. They set the bar way too low. So when a client usually comes to me, that's one of the very first things we do is like, I raise the bar. I have to raise the bar because the bar is too low for them. This is why a lot of people fail at fitness, because they're going at stuff that doesn't even excite them.
Yep.
You're going after something like, that's not going to give you do you think you're going to get up early for that goal? Not going to happen. It's not. You need something that's worth the payoff, because here's the deal. If this is your payoff and this is the amount of work you have to do, you'll do it every single time. But if this is the amount of work you have to do and this is the payoff, you're not going to do it every single time.
That's why I have so much respect for people who are skateboarders. I think skateboarders they have probably one of the strongest mindsets out of any sport. And the reason being is because when you look at the task of skateboarding, say they're doing an ollie kick flip, or they're doing a half pipe, or anything that they do to create that moment of triumph in skateboarding, the risk of injury is so great for the reward, which is so small. and the level of determination and the level of discipline required to succeed in the amount of failures with absolute peril to get that one thing done, that is a mental fortitude that you find in very few spots.
That's very true. I never thought about it like that, but you're right.
Yeah. Well, dude, Tywin, man, it's been absolutely a pleasure having you on the show. I think, there's so many things that, we didn't even get to talk about physical fitness. We didn't get to talk about anything, but I think you're absolutely right. I think the idea, it all starts in the mindset first. And I think if you can conquer there, I think you're 100% right that that's where people will find victory. And in doing so, they'll be able to look for the outcomes that they might not even think that was possible.
Yeah, if you can do that, honestly, the rest is easy. Because here's the deal: there's not an information problem. That's not most people are looking for more information. We're in an information era. That's not the issue. We have an application. People know what to do to lose weight. You know what to eat. And if you don't know, you can go look at the information. People know what to do in the gym, and if you don't know, you can easily go get the information. Problem is, most people get the information and they don't know what to do. That's why people come to me.
You're absolutely right. The information is always at our fingertips. It's the application of the information is the thing that's missing. And that's where having somebody beside you to help you do that consistently, reliably, with discipline, who's done it before, is exactly what the missing link is for most.
It's 100%. Yeah, because I can give people the information. You know what they're going to do with it?
Nothing.
Because they don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
So, like, when people come to me, and that's usually the first thing I say, like, I don't. You can go on ChatGPT and get a workout. You can go to all those places. That's not what you're paying me for. That's not, you're paying me for results. That's why people come to me. Like, that's why when people go, well, this trainer is this and this. Well, I'm not that.
Well, I know with you, like, the proof's in the pudding, right? And that's why you've got the Tywin Kalandyk.com/course, and you do the lose up to 25 pounds in 12 weeks, and it's free.
Yeah.
And so if somebody says, like, put your money where your mouth is, like, look, dude, it's free. Go out and check my course. It's a free thing that you can take and start to commit to some results.
Yeah.
And you'll see that the course will drive you through getting those results as your first step. And I think that right there is a beautiful big give, because if somebody can lose 25 pounds in 12 weeks, they know you've got the goods.
Yeah.
And how much did you charge them? Nothing for it.
Yeah.
And I think that is, like, if somebody's got that mindset, they're ready to make a decision, I think that's a huge thing that they can do, is just go and sign up for something for free. There's no cost on it.
Yeah.
And it's TywinKalandyk.com/course. And I think that is a beautiful step for people to take, because in the end, it's about working smart, and it's about working with people who've done it before, because the idea of going alone, I think, is not the right course of action. Nobody has ever been successful going alone.
We've never done that.
Everybody has always had a mentor.
It's never been done like that in human history. It's always been internships, apprenticeships. That's how it's been. But again, I don't know really when this started, what year this started, but we leaned on this, again, this victim mindset of where there's certain people, certain entities want you to depend on them. They don't want you to depend on them. They don't want you to think for yourself. They don't want you to do things for yourself. But that's not the way it's been in the past. That's not how we got here.
Absolutely not. No, you need a team, you need a community, you need people who are there to support you, and then you need to commit to doing the hard things, and that's the activities, and then doing smartly those hard things, which means you have a system and a model, and that's usually built by somebody who's done it before.
100%.
Well, Tywin, man, it's definitely been a pleasure chatting with you. I super appreciate you dedicating the time today to our community and to our listeners. And man, I wish you all the best in the world, my friend.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. Hopefully your listeners got some stuff from me.
And what I'm really excited is to see you at the gym in Orlando, and we can maybe slap out a couple rolls of some jiu-jitsu when I come down and I see you next time.
Let's do it. Here's one thing that I learned about jiu-jitsu. Like, look, I don't care how big somebody is. All that stuff goes out the window when it comes to jiu-jitsu. So look, normally I talk trash really bad, but I'm smart enough to know, look, if you've been doing jiu-jitsu longer than me, don't talk trash. It's not.
Let's put our muscles up and let's see. Yeah. Let's see who's going to win. Let's go.
Yeah, no, it ain't about, you ain't going to fool me on that. No.
My muscles been here the whole time.
Yeah.
It's been here the whole time.
I understand jiu-jitsu enough, but like, that ain't how it works.
Awesome, my friend. Well, enjoy your day. And guys, this is the money. This is the mindset. This is the mentoring podcast. We'll see you on the next one.